Good morning, everybody. According to Sigmund Freud, founder of psychoanalysis, and let me quote, he says, evidence suggests that militant atheists, meaning people who do not believe in God and are very vocal about it, okay, their hatred, I continue the quote, for the very idea of God is because in their childhood, they did not experience love. Ganun pala yun. People who find it difficult to accept God, people who find it difficult to make a relationship with God, the real source of that is because they did not experience love early on in their life. And so it's so difficult, hindi nila makonceive a God. Even Pope Francis, in his apostolic letter, Patris Corde, he says, and I quote, Jesus, the second person of the Blessed Trinity, Jesus, the Son of God, Jesus experienced the love of God the Father through the love of Saint Joseph. End of quote. He was able to feel the love of God when he felt the love of the human Joseph. This is called foundational love. We will be unable to feel, to grasp, to believe in the love of God unless we experience it first. We experience it first through other human people, from another person, foundational. I am a middle child of 5 siblings. And the tendency of a middle child is to fall between the cracks. I did not feel love in a very personal way. You know, all of my siblings, they had nicknames and pen names. Ako, I was Dennis in my ID. I was Dennis in my class record. I was Dennis at home. I never had a term of endearment. The result was, I was an angry child. I was an angry boy. Not that quiet anger na nagngingit-ngit lang. No, 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 no. I was nagwawalang anger. It's going into full-blown tantrums. You know, the works. Shouting, stamping, screaming, crying. In fact, my solo pictures in childhood were all, in solo pictures in childhood, were all during a tantrum or after a tantrum. They seem to enjoy taking my picture like that. And every time there was a quarrel, the presumption is, si Dennis ang may kasalanan. Of course. That was immediately the tantrum. Kasi si Dennis na yan, lagi na lang galit. I had a maternal grandmother. We called her Mamita. And we called her Mita for short. Although she was already taken, my sister was her favorite. Early on, she noticed a pattern in me, and she took pity in this little angry boy. You know, some moments in our life are so earth-changing, are so life-changing, that we remember the details of it. Me, I remember it. I was 4 years old. I remember I was wearing a striped t-shirt, striped blue shirt. My Mita came home from the market and she brought a live catfish, hito. And she gave it to me. It was alive. I put it in a pan, put water, and I played with it. You know, played with it means I squeezed it, I pinched it, I strangled it, I stretched it until that fish lost all the will to live. It died. The next time I saw it, nakabulagta na yung hito. And I broke into a major tantrum. Talaga, complete stamping on the floor and all that. And then I ran to my room and locked myself. My Mita came, gently knocked, and I remember just throwing things at the door where she was knocking. Eventually, I felt sleepy, and when I woke up, I was hungry. And then she knocked again and told me there was a delicious lunch prepared. I was hungry. I went out. Lo and behold, on the table was prepared, wonderfully arranged, in crispy glory, my pet fish. I consumed my beloved pet to the bone. You know, until now, I have a special affection for catfish. Not as a pet, but as lunch. From that time on, my tantrum stopped. I was now special to someone. She told me, my Mita told me, tomorrow I'll buy you a fish that will never die. The next day, she gave me the fish. I played with it, meaning I strangled it, I squeezed it, I pinched it, I elongated it. It did not die. That was my first experience of a plastic fish. I felt love. My Mita did not encourage me to be a priest. She never said anything about the priesthood. She just invited me to accompany her to church every day. And I went without bribery because I wanted to be with her. Because when I was in church with her, wala doon yung mga asungot kong kapatid. Solo ko si Mita. Just the two of us. Now, every time we finish the Mass, every time she would carry me and lift me up. You know, I was already on the heavy side even at that time. She would lift me up, carry me, and there was this life-size crucifix there at the back of the church, and she will lift me up, and she will tell me, let Jesus kiss you. She did not tell me to kiss Jesus. She will press my cheeks into the lips of Jesus. Pahalika kay Jesus. I found that very strange. It continued until I was, already too big to be lifted up. I wanted to be a priest since I was 7 years old. You know, many of my companions in the seminary, they wanted to become priests because they wanted to celebrate Holy Mass. Not me. They wanted to go to some pagan countries and convert them to Christ. Not me. They like to eat because hindi nagugutom ang pare. Not me. They like to be martyred by cannibals. I was none of the above. I just wanted to be with Christ. In the same way, I wanted so much to be with my grandmother. The feeling was the same. But I'm sometimes ashamed, but never mind, to say this, but never mind. So what? Since I entered the seminary at 12 years old, never kissed, never loved, I was asked to leave 8 times. 8 times the superiors told me to go home. I never doubted my vocation. Everybody else doubted. But obviously, somebody else wanted this to happen. I'm 31 years a priest now. And every time I was told to go home, you know what? I was very sad. But strangely, it was the most serene moments of my life. It's not bitter, I was not angry. Because all those times, the words of my grandma will ring into my ears. Every pain was a kiss from Christ. Every time I felt He loved me. And that was all that mattered. Priest or no priest, I was loved. I was loved by Him. As I went on in my studies, gone through so many studies, so many seminars, so many retreats, all this theology about God. I learned so much about God. I studied only in order to pass. But it was through my Mita that I experienced this God. God who is persistent. The God who is gentle in His presence. The God who did not take my tantrums seriously. Yung mga tampo ko sa Kanya. The God who took my pains and heartaches seriously. The God who glossed over my faults, even as a priest. The God who will never reject me, who will never give up on me. The God who was amused with my plans and my dreams. The God who accepted me as I am. All these I experienced about God through my Mita. My Mita was the meekest, the mildest, the tenderest person I have ever known. You know, I shudder at the thought of what would have happened to this angry little monster were it not for my Mita. It would have been impossible for me to believe in God. I hope I did not bore you with my story. I just felt it would have been useless for me to give you a theological treatise on the love of God. It would have been cute. It would have been romantic and sentimental, but not concrete. Instead, what I would like, Sana, is to invite you to reconnect with your foundational story of love. Those little experiences of being loved, those little islands of love in an ocean of probably a cruel and rejecting world. And there you will discover how God, His love, was already so concretely present from the very beginning of your life. And He has never left and will never leave. Will never leave. I told you my foundational story of love that you may access your own. Go back to your experience of love from the earliest moments. Especially you boys, your parents, all of us would wish you will be protected from disappointment and frustrations and all those evils. We can't do that. But your experience of love will help you discern what is true and what is false. Access it. Go back to that experience. And I'm sure all of us present here have had these foundational stories of love. Otherwise, you wouldn't have survived childhood. It would have been a yaya. It would have been an aunt. It would have been a nino. It would have been a neighbor. Access it. And you will discover, and most especially, you will experience how you have been loved all along by God. All along and all the time by Him. Balikan ang kilig upang madama uli ang kanyang pantig. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Let us pause for a while and allow God to speak to us.